the moment is finally here where you all get to meet Karen Whitfield, who wrote an incredible book called Batdriven West. In this story, she talks about her experiences meeting and touring with Adam West and Burtward as the Bronze Age Batgirl. Stay tuned because this two-part interview is something you are not going to want to miss. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our special edition of Married with Comics because we have an incredible guest. We have the one and only Bronze Age Batgirl with us, Karen. So, Karen, please introduce yourself. And of course, you're here for a very specific reason. Can you tell us why?
Yes, I'm Karen Whitfield. I traveled with Adam West and Burtward as the Bronze Age Batgirl in 1978 until about 1985, and then another year or two after. So it's nice to meet you all. And Scott and Laura, thank you for having me on your Married with Comics show. This is the cutest thing and incredible. And it was wonderful to meet you both at the GalaxyCon in Raleigh back in the summer. So again, thank you. And everybody's nice to meet you all.
Yes, it was so much fun to meet you over at GalaxyCon. And we've shown that little clip that you did for us, the little shout out. And of course, we purchased your copy of the book, Batdriven West. Obviously, it's been quite a bit of time since you were touring with Adam West and Burtward. So what inspired you to write the book now instead of maybe earlier?
Well, that's a great question. Honestly, I didn't have any plan to come back around to it. But as life takes you, that path opened up again. It was placed on my heart. So I decided to get back into the Bat family. And I'm thrilled to be back. And I was visiting California in 2016. And I went 3 times that year. And on the airplane ride back in November, it just hit me on the plane to possibly open up that journey again of what happened. Going back a few years ago, my daughter, she mentioned that she thought that it would be great for the fans because I'm the only one that traveled with them as that girl. Then it would be ending with me. And since there's not a lot of stories or pictures and things like that there. So I thought about it and I prayed about it and it was placed in my heart to do it. So I just decided to start writing it January 2017. And it was completed November 2019.
That's awesome.
Every girl has a dream, So when you were little, did you ever even think or dream of being Batgirl?
No. What happened though, when it's meant to be for something to happen, no matter what, and if it's God's plan, it's going to happen. No man can stand in his way. So what happened, and when I was watching Batman and Robin, I was 9 years old when it came out in 1956. So in 1957, the year after it came out, they introduced Batgirl, Yvonnecraig. And I remember when she first came on, I was so excited. She made me feel braver and stronger and bigger. She empowered me. And I remember that at 10 years old. And that age is very informative to a child. Just 10 years later, in 1977, I met Burtward. And then my journey started. It changed my life. Who would have thought that could have happened, right? So.
Yes.
Right. Karen, you mentioned it, and the day that you met Burtward is one of my favorite stories in the book.
Definitely.
Because of your honesty and the whole scenario and the way that you painted in the book. Can you share that with us? I mean, I understand that you recognized him just as another person. First of all, you didn't recognize him as Robin, correct?
Right, exactly. I'm from Durham, North Carolina, and I was working at the Raleigh-Durham Airport in North Carolina, and it was very small then compared to now. But I remember that I was the only one working, and I was the one that was closing up that night, and it was close to midnight. And I remember this man kept going back and forth. I didn't notice him at first. I looked up, and he was looking at me, and then I started watching what he was doing, which was kind of odd at that time of night. And I looked down to make sure some of the other aides were working, in case something went strange. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, he's going to come up and start talking to me and pretending like he wanted to rent a car and he just wants to talk to me. I know that sounds vain, but when you're, 20 years old, you want to hurry up and get home and get out of work at midnight, been there all day. So he came up and he wanted to rent a car, and I got the contract out and everything. And he gave me a California driver's license. And I looked at it and I said, wow, you're a long way from home. He said, I am. And he said, well, do you recognize the name? And I'm like, no, I really don't. You know, even though I watched it 10 years before that, I'm 20 years old now, and you just get out of those comics in a sense and you just move away. And it didn't register me. It could have been because I was tired. It was late at night. I was ready to go. I said, no, I don't. He said, well, I'm Robin of Batman and Robin. I'll never forget it. And I said, really? Like I'm Wonder Woman? He said, no, seriously, I am.
I love it.
I said, what are you doing here? And he said, well, I really don't want to rent this car. I just want to meet you. I said, that's what I thought, you know. He said, can we talk or get together, have dinner? And I said, well, I don't talk to strangers. Maybe if you come up here. I said, you know, how long are you here? He said, well, I have to go for a week or so for personal appearances. And he said, I'll come back. And I said, okay. Well, I never thought that he would, but I really kind of brushed it off. So 2 weeks later, he came back. We started our friendship after that. And he's a dear, dear, dear person. I love his family. And it was fun. It was a great journey.
So the one of the most important questions of this interview, of course, that everyone's dying to know. We all, of course, grew up and loved, you know, the Batman series. So what was it like for you to meet Adam West? Because Adam West, at least that's a face that most people will immediately recognize. You know, what was he like?
Well, I love that question, actually. Thank you. So it was in March of 1978 was the first time, I believe, when I met Adam. January, I first saw Burt as Robin, and then we met Adam in March. Burt had given me some pointers with him, let me know what he's like. And he knew Adam so well, and he knew his personality. So I guess he wanted to forewarn me, maybe. I don't know. But so I met him in Dallas Airport. We flew to Dallas, and he couldn't get to the next airport because the weather was so bad. So they had run in a limo, and I sat in the back of the limo in between the two of them. And I remember when I first saw him, he came up and he said, well, hi, Karen. And he, you know, kind of shook my hand, and he was just so sweet and fun, just debonair. He was just a good looking man, right? And then when he spoke, that voice, you just wanted to, you know, you wanted to swoon. But then, you know, he was so sweet and nice and funny, and you know, we got to be pretty good friends. So it was a lot of fun. And that trip was like 2 hours, hour and a half, 3. It felt like it was a long time. But it went so fast because he would laugh and make us laugh. He loved to make Burt laugh. And they would talk about things that they went through and things like that. But, you know, he would change the music to his words. And we just laughed the whole trip, you know. So that was the beginning of my meeting him. So it really was just an amazing time that I will never forget.
Absolutely. Most, you know, comic book fans, of course, know that there's a difference in the Batgirl costumes. We, in essence, instead of calling you always the Bronze Age Batgirl, a lot of us, you know to reference you as kind of the Detective Comics Batgirl because of that black costume. What were some of those differences that they made within, you know, Batgirl within the two series? And did they ask you any input? Did DC say, you know, do you want blue with black? What did they offer? Or did they just say, here's the new design, congratulations, you're Batgirl?
In 1966, when the show started, in 1978 is when Batgirl was introduced. Before she was introduced to the show, they were asked to, I believe it was William Dozier asked Bob Kane, and it might have been Bill Finger. They had written the comic and drew the picture, illustrated it. So actually the number 359 is the first actual Batgirl publication in which that's my suit. So what happened is when they introduced Yvonnecraig as Batgirl, I'm not sure why they did not put her in that suit, since that suit was actually created for the first Batgirl. But my daughter is an artist. She thinks that it's because in the show, if they had her in the suit, well, Adam's was the same color. So remember, color had just come in. They were one of the first TV shows that was in color. That's why I think a lot of people loved watching it, because it was so bright and happy and fun. And if they had put her in a suit, then there wouldn't have been a difference. And a Batman and Batgirl. It would have been all the same color, but so to put splashes of color in there, that's why they could have put Yvonne in the purple and gold. So it contrasted each other, as well as Robin was the red and the green and the yellow. I'm not sure what year they started touring, just the two of them. Well, Yvonne did not want to travel at that time. So when I met them, again, it was 10 years after the show. And when they decided to ask me if I would be Batgirl, it made sense to put me in the suit because no one had worn it yet. It would be odd to jump from that time of the comics to another time of the comics in another suit. So since it hadn't been worn, they asked me to wear it. I loved it and I was honored to wear it. I mean, it just felt so surreal when I put it on for the first time. It was just incredible.
Comic fans are going to want to know the answer to this question. There is no wrong answer, but did you ever read any of the Bronze Age Detective Comics to like research your role?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I read about her back then because in 1975 was the Batman publication, and that's when they basically introduced her. She was more in that timeline. She was more in a gray suit and a blue cape. They knew that I was in that time where they came to visit us at the car shows and things. But in February of 77, they made the new Batman Adventures on TV, the animated. Again, she was in that same gray suit. But instead of putting me in that, this was the first one, so, and I'm not sure if anybody ever wore the gray one because it was still in the timeline of the Bronze Age. So they just left it the way it was.
Now, this may be the end of part 1 of our interview, but part 2 is coming very soon, and it has even more stories about Adam West, Burtward, and the other cast members of Batman and Robin. So stick around, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all in our next video with the incredible Karen Whitfield, the Bronze Age Batgirl.